town filled with narrow minds and hate. They used to laugh at me, their children called me names. I would run and hide, feeling so ashamed just for being born.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to A Spoonful of Comfort. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I hope you will spend a little time with me today, and I will try to give you a little comfort. And when we have the call-ins, you can try to give me a little comfort. I'm Claudrine Jackson. I'm the author of a book inspired by autism. The book can be purchased here at the bookstore at WHPR 160 Victor in Highland Park, and if you come in and purchase a book, it's marked $14.95. We're selling it here for $10. If you come in and purchase a book, I will autograph it for you. And proceeds from the book go to the Purvis Jackson Foundation, which is a foundation that helps children with handicaps. Purvis Jackson Jr. has autism, but we help with all disabilities, not just autism. So the Purvis Foundation and the book are what motivates me to keep talking. I've said before that my son cannot talk, but I can, so I continue to talk. We're going to have call-ins. I don't know if the call-ins are going to start today. I have to find out. But when you call in, I'm going to want to know about a 20 grand reunion. I worked at the 20 grand from 64 to 1972. And the 20 grand was the hot spot in the city when artists came from other parts of the world, other parts of the country. I don't know about the world. When artists came from other parts of the country, they always came to the 20 grand. So if we have a 20 grand reunion, if I get enough response from people who want to see a 20 grand reunion, then we'll do it. And those of us 20 grand people, we've gotten a little older, but if we have the reunion, we will invite our children and our grandchildren also. And while I'm talking about the 20 grand reunion, I want to thank Gwendolyn Bradley, who was the first person to call in about the 20 grand reunion before we were even having call-ins. So if you call in and let me know. Also, since this is a spoonful of comfort, hopefully we can give you a little comfort. And we hope that you can give us comfort, because we need comfort now. We're not getting it from our leaders. So why can't we comfort each other? I know there are a lot of comfort people out there who want to give comfort. I want to share a couple of scriptures with you. Romans 12:2, which is, "Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind." You know how strong your mind is. If you feel like you're depressed and down, try to do something that's uplifting, which is what this show is trying to do. We're trying to help you uplift. You can transform your mind. You can change your thoughts. You can change your attitude by changing your thoughts. So hopefully that's comforting to you. Also, let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. It's hard now to not let our heart be troubled, which is why I decided to see how many people out there wanted to share comfort and for us to help each other. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. Cast your burden upon the Lord, and he shall sustain thee. I have lived long enough to have experienced these, and they have comforted me and helped me through a lot of tough times. I have a special guest on the show today. Veterans Day just passed, and I have a special guest who is a veteran, and I want to say thank you to the veterans for your service and your sacrifice. So we're going to take a short break. Stick and stay. Don't go away, because we'll be right back.
When I was 17, I sick and tired, living in a town filled with narrow minds and hate.
Welcome back to A Spoonful of Comfort. I'm Claudine Jackson, trying to offer comfort in these troubling times. Veterans Day just passed, and I wanted to say thank you to the veterans. Thank you for your sacrifice. Thank you for your service. Thank you is never enough, but I do want you to know that there are those of us who appreciate you. Now, I have my grandfather, my uncle was a World War II veteran, and I have a nephew on my husband's side who was one of the paratroopers when we invaded Grenada. So he was in the service. And I have other relatives that are in the service. But right now, I'm going to introduce you to my favorite vet, who is an Iraqi war veteran, who happens to be my grandson, Perry Holmes.
Hello. Hi.
Hi, Perry. Can you tell us something about what you did when you were in Iraq?
Well, first off, thank you for having me, Granny. I really appreciate the opportunity. I was a combat medic in the Army. I specialized in pre-hospital trauma life support. So what I did was I worked for the guys who looked for IEDs, roadside bombs, and explosives and things like that. And I was always on standby in case something went wrong. So I would be there to take care of them.
And I can't imagine what it's like to be a veteran or to go through that, but I know what it's like to be the family who's at home worrying and praying. So for the family members of veterans, you too have a lot of special energy that's coming from me. I really appreciate that. Now, can you tell us about the project that you just did, the singers?
Yes. Oh, songwriting with soldiers.
Yes.
Yes. Well, my mom discovered this amazing organization. I think she read about it in People magazine. It's called Songwriting with Soldiers. It's run by Mary Judd and Darden Smith, and it's a program for soldiers who have been in combat and who are dealing with post-traumatic stress issues and just the different issues that come from having spent time in intense military training and going to war. And what they do is that it's a retreat style, and they have veterans come and they write songs with accomplished songwriters who they hire to come in. And it's a whole weekend, and you get to perform and write the songs with them, and you record them, and it's a really amazing experience.
Well, I'm really proud of you for keeping the family tradition going. Also, one of the questions I have for you is about the legislation that you've been working on helping get passed. Can you tell us about that?
Absolutely. Well, being a veteran coming back from and dealing with what we call post-deployment issues, which means is post-deployment is once you get back from serving overseas in combat zones. So a lot of soldiers have a lot of post-deployment issues where it causes them to not be able to have stable housing because of the things they've been through, and the military not providing enough money to completely take care of everything. So I know that because this is a personal situation that I've been through with my struggles after the combat. So what me and my brother did was we came up with the idea for Senate Bill 422, and we worked with Senator Ian Conyers, where it works with the Michigan Land Bank, and what it does is it makes a mandate that if a veteran receives over 60% disability, the Michigan Land Bank has to provide that veteran with a home from the land bank at only 33% of their income. So it allows them to have a place of their own to be able to recuperate and recover from the things they've been going through.
So what should we say to veterans? I mean, thank you for your service. Thank you for your sacrifice. Seems so small, but do you all appreciate us saying those kinds of things?
You know, to be quite honest, I think veterans do appreciate it, and I think especially when it's genuine and it's not hollow. But I will say there's another side to it, because nowadays so many veterans have to fight and struggle so hard to get proper benefits from the VA system, the military, the government, and it's a constant struggle. And some of them are really struggling, and so it's a catch-22 when people are constantly thanking you for your service, but you're not receiving what was promised to you from your government. And so yeah, I can understand how some people would probably say, well, that's a silly question, but it's a really great question because a lot of veterans kind of have to weigh that.
Right. You also have military brothers, so can you tell us about your brothers that are in the military?
Yes, I have two younger brothers who both join the military. I have one brother who's he's in the Michigan area where he serves. He's in the reserve. He's about to be a captain, hopefully soon. And then I have another brother who is abroad all over the place, and he's also in the military. But we'll just say that.
Did your brothers tell you that you are the reason that they joined the military? They told me that it was your service that made them decide to join the military.
I'm very proud of them, and maybe they saw that once I joined and served, I walked a little bit taller, and they appreciated that.
Well, I greatly appreciate all of you, and never thought that I'd live long enough to have 3 military grandsons. But tell us about the work you've been doing since you got out of the military, the singing, things that helps uplift you.
I obviously come from a musical family, but I think once I got out of the military, I realized how important it is to pursue your dreams, to pursue the things that you want to do. And music is something that I've always wanted to do, but also conveying a message to people of like good feelings, of hope, of love. I get that from you. And I think for me, I found that music is the best way to kind of bring all of that together. So when I first got home, I started doing a lot of theater around Metro Detroit because it was really cathartic for me. And I've been drawn to one show in particular because of my own personal experience, which is Hair the Musical. And I've done that twice now. Once at Cranbrook, and we were featured on Live in the D a couple of years ago, and then last year we did it at New Center Park with the Detroit Actors Theater Company. And it's an anti-war, protest musical, so it kind of ties into everything for me. It addresses a lot of issues that are still relevant to this day. So, I also have been doing a lot of music now and putting it on YouTube and Reverb Nation, just trying to make sure that there's a positive message in the music that I write, because I try to convey that there's always hope as long as we're still here.
I'm glad to hear that. Now, can you share something that you have written or some of your songs? Can you share a little something with us?
Oh, sure. How about the song that you like so much, Look Up? It sure, it goes. Sometimes you get weary, sometimes you get blue, sometimes you feel like there's nothing else you can do. Sometimes you feel like you can't go on, but remember, you gotta push on, move on. You gotta be strong, yeah.
That kind of reminds me of Sometimes I Feel Like a Motherless Child, which was before your time. Do you know that song?
Oh, I love that song. It's a beautiful song.
Okay. Is there anything else you would like to add, Perry, before we go to this next break?
I just like to add that I would like to be considered as someone who is trying to do what they can to speak out for the next generation of young veterans who have come home and are dealing with their issues and they don't feel like they have a voice. That's something that's very important to me. So if people hear from me in the future, it will probably have something to do with that. So.
Okay, thank you so much, Perry. I'm so proud of you. I'm a proud granny.
Love you, Granny.
I've got 9 people calling me Granny now. We're going to take another short break, and hope you'll stay with us, and hope you'll tune in every Tuesday at 1:30
Absolutely.
for a Spoonful of Comfort. thank you for staying with us. I really appreciate it. I'm so glad to be able to try to share comfort with you. I'm so glad to be here in Highland Park. I'm a Highland Park resident. We lived in Highland Park for many years. My children attended school in Highland Park. I went to Highland Park College. In fact, I was attending Highland Park College when my children were attending Highland Park High School. And one day I ran into one of my children in the hall and they said, "This is my mother." And they said, "Your mother's still in high school?" And I said, "No, I attend college." The high school and the college were in the same building. So Highland Park is my roots. I am so thankful to be back. They say a lot of times we go back to our roots. So some other comfort I wanted to give you, I'm hoping will comfort you, is realizing that there are three kinds of people in the world. There are the people who make things happen. There are people who watch things happen. And then there are people who wonder what happened. And I've been all of those at times. And I mean, there are other kinds of people too, but we've kind of boiled it down to that. And also remember about if you're trying to do something, which is what I'm trying to do, that Arthur Ashe, the tennis player, said that the doing is what's important. The journey is not, you should focus on the journey because the destination is not secure before you start the journey, but it is the actual doing, the actual journey that helps you. My grandson, Perry, the Iraqi veteran, is still here, and we have another something that he wants to say.
Well, no, you were just talking about Highland Park and everything like that, and about the school and everything. And I was just going to say it's interesting you brought that up because Robert Elmwood actually, you know, me and my mom, he actually opened the old school up for us the other day, and we were able to go in and see it and everything like that. He's the investor that purchased the old Highland Park High School in Detroit. So it was very interesting to go in and be able to see it and everything.
Oh, that's the old Highland Park High School, because the new
the new one is gone. So this is the old one.
That always mystified me.
The one
That the new one is gone, but the old one is still here.
Well, I was talking about that with Mom the other day, and the architecture was kind of weird. I don't know how much interest people had in it, but I actually have this new issue of Black Magazine here. We were looking at it out in the lobby, and you know, last year, Emil Dara wrote the article about PTSD in urban areas and people that are dealing with it and everything like that. And there was the feature where I got to speak about dealing with post-traumatic stress issues, not just from combat, but just from everyday situations that kind of people go through that can, you know, cause you to have trauma.
Well, I'm glad you realize that you don't have to have served in the war to have PTSD. I went through my own bout of it trying to adjust to having a child with autism because that wasn't part of my plan. And speaking of my son, I would like to share with you all, I'm reading from my book again, Inspired by Autism. It took me 30 years to say inspired by autism. I was always, oh, I'm overwhelmed, I'm depressed, I'm upset, I don't know what to do, how am I going to handle this? And through this child, I became grown. I said I thought I was grown when he came along, but when he came along, I had to do some more growing. So he inspired me to do a lot of things that I probably wouldn't have done, and one of them is the book.
That's what I admire about you, Granny. Though you're always growing. Like you're never the type of person that feels like you know enough.
And they say that's one of the keys to aging. And since I'm aging now,
aging beautifully.
Thank you. I'm trying to stay active. I would like to read to you a poem that I wrote about my son. Now, when my son was born in '75. autism was practically unheard of because 75 was the year that they quit putting them in institutions. So I didn't know about people like my son, and I did try to institutionalize him. But in 75, the federal government was saying that you have to break down the big institutions, and they wouldn't give any more money to the states to keep the institutions open. So therefore, I kept trying to institutionalize him, and they kept trying to send me home with him. They kept succeeding in sending me home with him. And I said, oh, this is my burden. Then he became my challenge. Now he's my blessing. So we went from that to this poem that I want to read to you. He went from someone who was always attacking me to being loving and kind. And one day he would, autistic people don't like eye contact, so he would not give eye contact. But he started holding my shoulders and looking into my eyes and smiling. And he had inspired me to write this poem, A Love So Pure. A love so pure that I am sure it's coming straight from God. This kind of love comes down from above and right into my heart. Your smiling eyes were a big surprise that I never thought I'd see. So who knew that one day you would be smiling down at me? How could I guess that I'd be blessed for taking care of you? You've taught me a lot of things about how love can be true. I never thought the day would come when you'd be teaching me. But now I'm sure that when love is pure, it's unconditionally. We hear a lot about unconditional love, and I never knew what it really meant, because as parents, you say you got to make good grades, you have to be this, you have to be that, and it's almost like we love with conditions. But my son taught me about unconditional love. He loved me no matter whether I'd had a shower, whether my hair was combed, whether he didn't care what my clothes cost. He was a very, very, he was higher education for me. And if it hadn't been for him, I never would have sat still long enough to write a book. I'd never have this kind of courage to do a TV show. My husband wanted me to do these things, and I always said, well, you're the celebrity, not me. And he always said, well, one day you'll be glad I'm telling you these things. And he's right.
You never know.
I am glad. So I'm so thankful to have my grandson.
Love you, Granny.
So thankful to have my grandson, who has far surpassed my son in what he could do. And that was another thing that had to quit depressing me, that other people were doing things that my son couldn't do, but I had to be proud for what they were accomplishing. I hope you will tune in next week at 1:30 for A Spoonful of Comfort.
Yes,
and
please.
I hope that we've said something today will uplift you, and God bless America, God bless WHPR, God bless freedom of speech while I still have it, because sometimes in these troubling times nowadays, you don't know what's going on. But anyhow, God bless you. Hope to see you again next week, 1:30 Tuesday.